Welcome guys, welcome to another stimulation video, and in this video we're going to be configuring a DHCP service on the router, and this router is 2911 router Cisco. And so DHCP is a dynamic host configuration protocol. It's a protocol that allows connected devices to obtain IP address from a service, from a service configured on the router or the server. So you can configure DHCP on the router like the 2911 and all the other versions of the Cisco routers. And DHCP can also be configured by default on the wireless router. So routers are devices that route packets between different networks. So if you have to access a video from YouTube server, that particular video will be divided into packets, and those packets will take different routes. And they'll pass through so many different routers before they can get to your phone. So this service allows our phone to get IP address, which is a unique address that is used to communicate on a network. So when you use your phone, if you're connected to Orange GSM or Lone Star or whatever GSM company, when you turn on your internet connection, an IP address is leased to you. And the same service DHCP is configured on the server that is listing the IP address to you. So we're going to go ahead and configure DHCP on this route. So first you have to know that which port the router is connected to the switch. So here are the end devices, and we have our switch connected to our router. So you have to connect to a Gigabyte Ethernet port on your router. So we have to go to here on our main computers and access our router from the terminal. So don't forget to subscribe if you have not, and you can share the video also. So we're going to be doing a quick configuration of DHCP service on this router. So this is how we access the router. Now in physical environment, we need to put software, and we need our console keyboard to access the router. So now we're in the router. It's in the terminal interface on our main computer. So the main computer is this computer. So we're just going to go ahead and access, configure. So enable configure terminal. And we want to change the name of our router to DHCP R1. So host name, so DHCP underscore R1. The router is renamed, so we're just going to go ahead and add IP address. So I didn't label our network, but we're going to choose this from here. So we have to enter the interface 0x0 here. So interface, now G short for Gigabyte Ethernet, so 0x0. We're now in the interface. That's why you see it change like this, config. That's the interface configuration mode. So from here, what we have to do is to add IP address to this interface, and we're going to use our IP address 192.168.1.1, followed by default subnet mask for class C, which is 255.255.0. We click enter. This IP address has been added to this interface. So here we have to go and say no shot. So if you see by default here, when you connect to the router, this particular interface is going to be off. That's why you see it red. But if we type our no shutdown command, you're going to see that it's changing to green. See that? So the interface now is set up, meaning the interface is on. But this is the part where we have added IP address to this interface. Now you have to know, you're configuring a router or a server to configure the service, which is DHCP or whatsoever service. You have to make sure that that device has a static IP, meaning you yourself have to add the IP there. Not like those other computers now that will be getting IP address from the DHCP service. So you have to always make sure and add IP address. Add IP address to the right interface. So if you see here, this interface here is 0x0. If you're not sure, you just go back and check the way you connect. So 0x0 is here. So here we have added the IP address to 0x0. So our IP address, so 0x0 is our network address. So it's 192.168.1.1 is our network address. Right. So we're just going to go ahead and go back to our configuration, which is here, and we're just going to go ahead and configure the DHCP service. So IP DHCP. Now we have to specify the pool. So pool is the range. Now on a particular DHCP router, we can have a pool, or server we can have a pool. So we can have more than one pool on the router. That means we can configure two different pools for two different network on the same router. But we're going to do that in the next coming video. So here we have to specify name of the pool. Now you can call it anything. I'm calling it net one. Now we are in the DHCP configuration mode here in DHCP config. So here we have to specify network, followed by the network address, which is 192.168.1. I know somebody missed that. The network address is 0, which means no host can get the 0. But the router address here, which is 1, as a default route. So here you have to follow by default subnet mask 255.255.255.0 and click enter. And you have to say default route. So default router, now the router address. The router address is 192.168.1.1 and click enter and say DNS server. And then we don't have a DNS server in our network, so we're going to use the default DNS, which is 8.8.8.8. Now this is that. Now exit, and let's go back and verify. So now the service is configured on this router, and what we have to do now is to set our computer on a DHCP. So create computer. Now we're going to go ahead and set it on a DHCP. Now you see, so it got 192.168.1.2. The first address is the route address, which is 192.168.1.1. Grade now has a 2. So we're just going to go ahead since it was successful on this one. Now for obtaining the IP from DHCP pool, it's a first come first serve basis. Now Gray has a 2, so Sam can get a 3. But in case Grace has signed out or request for the DHCP before Sam, Grace is going to get number 3 because it's listing from number 1 all the way to 254 because that's a class C IP range. So we just go back to Sam, and Sam will get 4. So it does not do it in their topology order. So you that request, it's gonna definitely lease up the IP address to you. So you're just gonna go ahead and idle your computer on the DHCP, and the DHCP request is successful. Now we get 5 client being lease IP address. Now this service is a DHCP lease. So lease mean it's just giving it to you for a period of time. So the lease can get expired, and also you can get renewed. So what you want to know is static IP is where I will self add the IP address, and dynamic IP, which is a DHCP service, lease IP address automatically. All of those computers here have IP. So let's go ahead and test. So go here. So you see now, Chris can send a message to Sam. Why? Because they're on the same network. So we can go ahead and test other computers and see it's successful. If we go back to our stimulation mode here and click here, we're going to see what happened. So forward the packet. Acknowledgement have to go back to the sending node, and we're going to see that everything is checked out. So communication went successfully. Now, the CPU is configured here already. Now, the class of IP we're using is class C. So that means up to 254 end devices can connect to this particular router through this switch. They can be served IP address from the pool. So we're just going to go ahead and join this switch here to another switch. Now we have to use a crossover cable because they're devices of the same kind. If we're using mixed devices, this we use the straight through. Now two routers are connected. They're trying to establish connection here. So we're just going to go ahead also and request for DHCP IP from other devices on this side. So let's see, it's still kind of loading. If the request does not return in time. Now you see here, it's still loading because if you check here, you see it's still orange. It's not green yet, meaning that connection has not been successful. Now, if there's a DHCP service configured on the network, when the client requests for a DHCP, the Apepan IP automatic private IP address will be assigned to that client used to communicate or for communication. So this is the Apepan IP 169.254. You don't have to forget that. So now that the service is properly connected, let's go back and request. You see now? So there are 246 devices from here, and one is already here. So the next IP inner pool is .8. So .8 was assigned to this client. So if you can go ahead and just, you know, set all these other computers on DHCP, they're gonna cyclically get DHCP IP. So this is how we can configure DHCP on a router. We're using 2911 Cisco routers. So you can try this in physical environment if you have a physical router, or go ahead and practice this in the simulation. But the commands are the same. That's the more amazing part of this. The commands are the same. So go ahead and practice, and don't forget to subscribe and share. So all the users here now are connected on one network. If we try from sending message from Gray to Peter on the other switch, which would be considered as different room, we see that it's still successful. So this is an amazing and very short and pretty easy task to do. So go ahead and practice it. For my student, before the class time, you should know how to do this so we can go further with our lesson. So thank you for watching.